The frozen plains of Cathara 4 stretched endlessly beneath a pale violet sky, where two suns rose in tandem each morning, one crimson, one gold. Elira had been warned about the planet's predators, the glacial winds and the territorial disputes between the indigenous Catharan clans. What no one had warned her about was the cubs. She found them at dawn, huddled against the wreckage of her survey pod. 3 small creatures, no larger than earth foxes, with silver-blue fur that shimmered like starlight and eyes that glowed amber in the dim morning light. They trembled violently, their breath forming small clouds in the bitter cold. Elira recognized them immediately from the xenobiology briefings. Alpha cubs, offspring of the apex predators that ruled Cathara's wilderness. But these weren't the fearsome hunters described in the reports. These were infants abandoned or separated from their pack, and they were dying. She should have walked away. Protocol demanded it. Non-interference with indigenous lifeforms was the first rule of planetary survey. But Elira had never been good at following rules when lives hung in the balance. "Come here," she whispered, kneeling slowly. The cubs recoiled, hissing softly. I know. I'm strange. I'm alien. But you'll freeze out here." She opened her thermal coat, a marvel of human engineering designed to withstand temperatures that would kill most carbon-based life forms, and held it wide. The smallest cub took a tentative step forward, then another. Soon all 3 were pressed against her chest, their tiny bodies shaking as they absorbed her warmth. The boldest of them, a male with a distinctive white mark across his snout, looked up at her with those luminous eyes. Intelligence burned there, far more than any animal should possess. "Ravrik," she said softly, the Catharan word for brave one, coming unbidden to her lips. The cub's ears perked up, and something passed between them, recognition perhaps, or the beginning of understanding. Elira wrapped her coat around them and began walking toward the emergency beacon she'd activated. Rescue would come, but not for hours. Until then, she would keep them alive. By midday, everything changed. The ground trembled first, a rhythmic pounding that Elira felt through her boots before she heard it. Then came the roars, deep and primal, echoing across the frozen plains. She turned to see them, a pack of adult alphas, each standing nearly 3 meters tall, their muscled bodies rippling beneath thick fur, their fangs gleaming like polished bone. They had come for their young. Elira's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd seen the footage of what alphas did to threats. They were efficient killers, apex predators who had never known defeat on their world, and she was holding their cubs. The pack leader, a massive female with scars crisscrossing her snout, approached with deliberate slowness. Her lips curled back, revealing rows of teeth designed to tear through armor plating. The message was clear: return the cubs or die. Elira gently opened her coat. The 3 cubs tumbled out, chirping excitedly as they recognized their pack. They scrambled toward the adults, but Ravrik stopped halfway, looking back at the human who had saved them. The pack leader's growl deepened, questioning. Then Ravrik did something unprecedented. He ran back to Elira, pressing against her leg, chirping in what could only be described as explanation. The other cubs joined him, their small voices rising in a chorus. The pack leader's eyes narrowed. She took one step closer, then another, until her massive head was level with Elira's face. Hot breath washed over the human's skin. One bite, one swipe of those claws, and it would be over. Instead, the alpha lowered her head, a gesture that Elira's xenobiology training identified as submission or respect. The human had protected the pack's future. In Catharan culture, that created a debt that transcended species. When the Varathian raiders descended at dusk, they expected easy prey. Cathara 4 was remote, poorly defended, and rich in rare minerals. The human survey team would fetch a good price on the slave markets, and any resistance would be crushed beneath superior firepower. They didn't expect the alphas. Elira watched from her position behind a cluster of ice formations as the raider ships touched down. She'd seen their kind before, mercenaries and slavers who operated in the lawless frontier. Her distress signal had been intercepted, but not by rescue teams. She was calculating her odds of survival, low but not zero, when Ravrik emerged from the shadows beside her. He was no longer a trembling cub. In the hours since dawn, he'd grown, his body already beginning the rapid maturation cycle that characterized alpha development in times of danger. Behind him came the pack. 20 adult alphas moving with lethal precision, their eyes locked on the raiders who dared invade their territory, and leading them, coordinating their movements with chirps and growls that seemed almost like language, was Ravrik. The young alpha looked at Elira, then at the raiders, then back at her. The message was unmistakable. These are your enemies. They are ours now. What happened next would be studied by xenobiologists for generations. The alphas didn't simply attack. They strategized. They flanked. They used the terrain with tactical brilliance that suggested not animal cunning, but genuine intelligence. And at their center, directing the assault with chirps and gestures, was a juvenile alpha who had spent his morning learning from a human about protection, about sacrifice, about standing between the helpless and harm. Ravrik had learned well. The raiders never stood a chance. Their energy weapons proved useless against enemies who moved like liquid shadows, who attacked from angles that should have been impossible, who fought not with rage but with calculated fury. When the rescue team finally arrived, they found Elira sitting calmly amid the wreckage of 3 raider ships, surrounded by a pack of alphas who watched the newcomers with wary eyes. At her side sat Ravrik, now nearly full-grown, his white-marked snout resting possessively on her shoulder. The team leader's voice crackled over the comm. "Elira, are you commanding them?" She looked at Ravrik, at the pack that had adopted her into their family, at the cubs who now played fearlessly around her feet. "No," she said softly. "They command themselves. I just showed them that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is protect those who cannot protect themselves." Ravrik chirped in agreement, and the pack echoed the sound, a new song for a new alliance. By dawn, they had been refugees under a human's coat. By dusk, they had become legends who commanded the hunt, and the galaxy would never look at humanity or the alphas of Cathara IV the same way again.